pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to have the roll call today, and I do want to mention that our liaison to council is not able to attend today, but he has called in, and I believe he'll be listening. Is that right, Allison?
He is listening right
The
now,
meeting.
yes.
Wonderful.
Jim.
And so, hi, Jim, over the phone. Glad to have you with us, if not in person, certainly via phone. And I understand that Dan Allers is also out of town. So isn't he, I mean, that's right, that's BORCAB, sorry. I keep forgetting, he was a member of he was a member of our BORCAB, that's right.
That's right.
Bill Grace, have we heard from Bill Grace?
Bill will not be attending any meetings until further notice, so he did get the packet, so.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so with Lori, let's begin roll call.
Lori Wolf.
Thank you.
Betty Simpson.
Barbara Hill.
Bill Spula.
Becky Warner.
Cindy Richardson.
Hey, thank you all.
Gieson.
Approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from January 23rd?
I'd move the approval of the January 23rd, 2020 minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Lori. Second? That's what you've seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We have members in the public, so in our audience. So if anybody would like to comment, you're now invited to do so. There being none, we'll move on to the Friends of the Mound House report from Friends President Ellen Vaughn, and I understand we're going to also do that by phone.
Yes, so I'm going to call her, and she is going to give her report her phone, so.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, Ellen. I was hoping you knew my other number, so I'm going to put you on speakerphone, okay? Okay, Ellen.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ellen. Perfect.
Allison, you want to give? Yeah. The roster of who's there?
So Lori Wolf is present, Betty Simpson, Barbara Hill, Seal Spuler, Becky Warner, and Cindy Richardson is present, and we have our liaison from council, Jim Adderholt, on my other cell phone listening in.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi, Ellen. Hello.
Where are you on the agenda?
You're up. You're on the Friends of the Mound House. We are ready for your report.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to imagine most of you are aware that Pat and Gowan stepped forward to become the author of the wonderful book that will be The Mound House, that is called The Mound House, Crown Jewel of Fort Myers Beach. And that's been the primary activity of the Friends of the Mound House since the world shut down in March. I think you're all aware that our big fundraiser has been postponed until the world gets sane again. And we spent a bit of time in April trying to figure out if there are other ways for us to basically raise money for the Mound House. And realized that until we realized what was happening in the world, we couldn't. But the good news is we had the ability to focus all of our energies on the final stages of helping Pat with the book. Pat and Allison worked to find a printer that would provide the most favorable terms to us. And I think they were both very delighted with the company called 1 Point Specialty Products based in Kansas City. And Pat even commented on the support he received from Pat in the book itself. He again granted me the high honor of asking me to be here. So I had actually read the entire text, and he did a fabulous job. And so many of you talked to him over the time he was together as person source material for him. And he called out everyone, he identified everyone in the support of the book. So the book, actually in the process of being printed as we speak. It actually winds up being printed in China. So we expect that it will be finished being printed and shipped, likely by container, arriving in Miami sometime in October, and then it will be shipped from Miami to Fort Myers and delivered into Allison's waiting hands. It's going to be delivered to Town Hall. And the goal is to begin having a series of events in early November, a book signing that Pat will provide, and then Allison has been thinking of all kinds of different events that function the 100th anniversary of the house, return to its 1901 grandeur, and the publication of the book. To back up on some of the logistics of the book, Pat very generously donated all of his time and his talent, and as a retired academic, he had experience writing academic books, so it was not unfamiliar territory to him. He did share with me at the end that he had sort of forgotten that the business end of the logistics of closing all those, all the final I's and T's was the most not particularly rewarding, but bless his heart, he stuck with it and found a good publisher for us. And he donated with the Friends of the Mound House, so that the Friends of the Mound House is entitled to publish the book and receive all of the proceeds. For that, the legal commitment dollars as back in the olden days, it used to be dollars. So I guess that's what inflation has done to money over whatever years. And the Friends of the Mound House has the rights to publish the book, and we will be setting price. We have a small committee that will be meeting us what kind of pricing it should have, and what we will set as the retail pricing. And that committee is Dan Hughes, Allison, Pergoli, Crabtree Pergoli, and myself. And just prior to this meeting, I sent out an invitation asking for us to hopefully next week and kind of get that resolved. We've got some time to work on it, because obviously don't need to price the book into hands in late October. Allison, have I missed anything?
I don't think so, Ellen.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for me?
No?
You may have mentioned in this report, but how many are being published?
You're printing 15.
1,500. Okay, thank you.
And the book length, it will be a paperback, a softback. It will be basically 8.5 by 11-ish kind of thing. The book manuscript, including, is a total of 64 pages. 64. And the layout is very, very attractive. There's lots of pictures in it. Bill Grace provided most of the photos, and he worked, and Allison, of course, from the records of the Moundhouse.
You established a retail price for the purchase of this book?
That's what this committee is going to look into. I will share with CELCAB that our out-of-pocket cost is just shy of $10.
Oh, right.
But obviously, have this be accessible to people, but it will be a source of funds for the Friends of the Mound House that we flip around and give to the Mound House. I think we need to price it appropriately.
Right, of course. So you're looking obviously to put this in the museum store, and other venues were you determining?
Yes. We're hoping that outlets on the island and maybe on will be interested. I know that casual conversations I've had with people that have access to space will say, "Oh, we would like to have it," so it'll be a problem for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. And I think this is really great that the Friends of the Mound House is actually an agenda item on CELCAB. I'd like to see that, maybe not every meeting, but certainly every other meeting. But if you have opportunities to present new information that Friends will be involved in, by all means, I welcome you to come to our CELCAB meeting and present them, hopefully next time in person.
Great, thank you very much. I'm happy to do so. And if any member of CELCAB has experience pricing books, if you would get in touch with me and let me know what you would think of as an appropriate range, we're happy for the input. Than Allison, I don't think any of us have any experience. Expertise is appreciated.
Any other questions for Ellen? Seal has a question.
Well, actually, this is for not only Ellen, but CELCAB. It seems to me that for the work that Pat has put into this, what it's going to do for the Moundos, I think there should be something that came from CELCAB, an acknowledgement of what he has done in some way, at least a letter of appreciation, or maybe something a little more. What is your feeling about that?
Are you asking Ellen or CELCAB or?
CELCAB, actually.
I think it sounds
Because
like
the
a really good
Friends
idea.
most likely will discuss that themselves, but I think CELCAB makes something of an honor to him, either letter or how do you feel about that?
You've done a lot of work for us.
Oh,
I mean, my goodness. I mean, we sat and talked in
exactly, Betty.
my garage and your house, and
The research he's done to make sure, and his endeavor to make everything a fact, and when stories are told, it's told as a story, and it's done so well.
I'm happy to write a letter on behalf of the CELCAB members, if that's what you would like for me to do. And I can get together with Allison and get the details.
But I think that would be very appropriate, and I appreciate that. I know he will.
I interject that the Friends of the Mound House certainly plan to honor Pat. We talked about that at our last meeting. We haven't definitively come up with how we're going to show our appreciation. I think to have both organizations show appreciation just a marvelous idea. Now, I will share one more supporting fact that I didn't mention. Pat has a patent attorney he's worked with for the other publications he's been involved with, and his patent attorney provided all of his services pro bono, as did Dan Hughes' Michael, who always does our pro bono work. So we have a whole cascading cast of characters to thank for their kindness in sharing their expertise.
Anything else
Good.
for Ellen?
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate it.
You have a great meeting.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
See you in person soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
It's an exciting project. It's nice
Yep.
to know that it's
There is.
going to happen soon, and it'll be probably fall. I think she mentioned October.
Yes, the books are supposed to be, yes, October. Many players, University of Florida, University of Georgia, Dr. Marquardt, Dr. Victor Thompson, Bill Grace, many others from our community, including Betty and Seal and some of our officials. It's been a really great project, and Pat, she's correct. He really, Seal, you're right. He made sure that all the content experts were contacted and proofread the information. So.
And you know, it's while there was a lead person, virtually all of you spending volunteer hours to make that book happen, each of you deserve letters, right? Because, you know, especially Bill and Dr. Marquardt and, you know, all of the players, there were many to make that happen.
They were. It was a wonderful project, and I know I enjoyed working on it. So.
Very cool. Okay, thank you. Next is Jennifer Dexter, our new social media communications officer. And so, Jennifer, I'd love to have you come up and give us a little synopsis of what you've been doing since you came on board with the town in April, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. You guys look familiar.
I know, right?
After switch
It
chairs.
gets to be a long,
Seats.
it gets to be a
Yeah.
long day.
That's okay, we switched.
Well, as was mentioned, I'm Jennifer Dexter, and I'm the communications coordinator for the town's first communications coordinator. I came in April in the middle of the pandemic from Ohio. If anybody is worried, I moved myself in a U-Haul, and I didn't spend the night in a hotel, so it was really rough getting here, but I'm glad to be here. And I'm sad that I haven't had the chance to get out and meet everybody yet because of the pandemic, but thank you for letting me be here today. I just wanted to give you a few heads up on things that are coming down the pike. Communications-wise, one of our biggest projects right off the bat is going to be redesigning the website. We are now going through it page by page for content, and also talking with people about what kind of things we need to add to the website. So look for that about the beginning of November. Our strategy with that is really we want people to only have 3 clicks or less to get to whatever information that they need. And also, we're going to have information that's native to the town. So we're not going to repeat information that's on another website, mainly because it's very difficult to keep that up to date in a good way. But also because they're the experts and we're not on whatever the topic is. For instance, Mound House. We'll have a direct link to the Mound House website instead of repeating a lot of information on our website about that. We have an introduction and then send people to Mound House. So you know that's kind of how we're operating with our strategy from on out on the website, and expect that by November 1st. TextMyGov is a communication tool that we just launched, and that is a number that people can text, and it will pop up with information about the town, whatever they want to know. They can text a keyword, for instance, town, bring them to the contact information for the town and for council members and a list of council members, that kind of thing. So we just launched it very softly last week, and you'll be seeing more and more of us promoting that. Also, we have social media outlets that have just gotten up in the last 5 days. We started Twitter for the town. We already had Facebook and Instagram for the town. We'll be sharing Instagram, a lot of photos from all over the town, so that Bay Oaks and Mooring Field and Newton Park, we can post stuff on Instagram for that as well as Facebook. As far as media goes, I just think it's important for me to say that Roger and the town council members remain the key spokespeople. I'm the gatekeeper for media and public information that media may be asking for. I also want to reiterate that our websites can be our main source of news. So if you're not signed up to receive notifications as soon as we post things, I would encourage you to do that. And do that on Notify Me on the front page. If you need help doing that, let me know, and I will help you get set up with that. But everything that we are putting out as a town, we're putting on the home page in the news module. That will continue going forward. As far as the branding goes, just launched the new logo in the last couple months, and we're slowly placing the old logo on materials and business cards and websites and all that kind of stuff. So you'll be seeing that roll out for several months, if not a couple years. We got to do it as resources allow for signs and that kind of thing. And one of my goals is to have project fact sheets on the website for any big project that's coming down the pike, for instance, Bay Oaks. And so you'll be seeing that start to happen, especially with Bay Oaks, as we're getting going here, so that we can all have the same facts and information about that particular project, and we can all speak intelligently and consistently when we're asked questions. And so, kind of it in a nutshell. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions?
Actually, I have a question based on our meeting this morning with CELCAB with regard to the budget, because with this kickoff meeting that we've got, I know this is a little off topic for Mound House, but there was a question about budget between, X to X. Some budget figures have been thrown out and published. And maybe Roger can better answer this question now that he's just walked in the door. But I think it's a public information question, because I think it's a matter of, rather than people assuming the worst, that we can give them a fairly accurate ballpark in terms of where this project might happen. So I guess we need direction from you to determine just what is the best thing to do so that everybody's informed when everybody's asked questions. Because I know they'll ask questions of Betty. She serves as chair of Bay Oaks. So just want some direction there with regard to budget specifically. I think what we have that kickoff meeting. We're talking about public information. I want to know what Jennifer's role is with regard to getting the information out in advance of that July 13th meeting for people in the community that really want to know how much that Bay Oaks project will cost. Because people are already asking. Since I have Jennifer here, I wanted to address that.
Okay, everyone have a napkin or a tissue or a mask? The total amount of money that we've have proposed for what we call the big three projects is $1 million.
Right.
The rough disbursement of that $10 million is $6 million for Bay Oaks, $3 million for Times Square, and $1 million for Bayside. Now, that I said that, I think, and not to digress, but the drawing you saw earlier today, for those of you who saw that, it's probably more than that amount. So we're not trying to curtail the suggestions, ideas, recommendations, desires of the community. There will come a point of time where there'll have to be some value engineering, shoehorning, prioritization that'll have to occur. Now is not the time for that. But just to be aware that, it's great to hear all these ideas and suggestions, but I do believe that shown we're probably well over that number. So, but that's work that we have to do, and we have a design team to help us do that, and we have committees such as yourselves to help us do that. And again, we don't want to curtail any ideas and suggestions at this point, but just be aware that every idea comes with a cost. Mm-hmm. We'll have to work on that as time goes on. But I think the important thing is to encourage the ideas, because we don't want to miss the one great one that might be out there.
Thank you, Roger. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of how we address those questions that are asked of us.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jennifer, do you have anything more to add, or do you have any questions? Does anybody have other questions for Jennifer?
A cookie.
Oh, that's what he came
To
for.
take back.
Right?
Absolutely.
Back
Give
there.
him several.
Yes, give them to take back.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate your being on board. And obviously, because the Island Sandpaper is now closing, I think your presence is more important now than ever, because we need to make sure that the facts are readily available on our website, so there's no question, as you well know. So glad to have you aboard.
Hey, Allison?
Would it be okay?
Yes,
I have a
Jim.
question about.
Just had a quick
ask
question for
Allison about
Jennifer.
Whatever. And I don't know if this is the right thing.
hang on.
Go ahead and ask
Is
her,
that,
sure.
should I just wait for my turn?
Jim would like to ask Jennifer a question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Let's
certainly.
go ahead, Jim.
See, at some point I'll make some introductory remarks, but Jennifer, while you're still here, I think it's important for the renovation of the website. I think it's great to have the Mound House link on the town's website, but I think it's a dynamic where there are a number of visitors who would go to the town's website just to find out things to do in Fort Myers Beach, and because the Mound House itself doesn't lend itself to a sort of a self-description, so I think you would need some kind of a teaser on the website explaining what the Mound House is, whether it's 1 or 2 sentences with maybe a picture. And I think, maybe a list of things to do in Fort Myers Beach drives people to that website, as opposed to just seeing Mound House, click here. I think there's going to need to be some enticement to particularly for folks out of town, to be drawn in to the Mound House website. So just having the link there may not be enough. We may have to do a little bit more just to draw people to that link. But I'm sure Allison's way ahead of me on all this, but I just thought I would throw that out there for discussion.
Mike. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, I totally agree. It wasn't clear. We will have a page for Mound House or a description with pictures and that kind of stuff. But for the big information related to Mound House, we're not going to repeat it on our website. Like, how to purchase tickets, and maybe how to purchase tickets are there, but more about just the specifics of Mound House, because the website that they do has a lot more than we're going to be able to do on our page and keep up with.
I think Jim's point is when you look for attractions and things to do, that's the tab you look for. That was his, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, because
That's right.
He's very true. People don't know what the Mound House is. People don't know what Newton is.
Exactly.
So when you come to an area, I think he's just saying to have a tab that people, it's a universal. So when you're on Fort Myers Beach, what are all the wonderful things you can do on Fort Myers Beach?
Things to do.
Greenfield,
Exactly.
yeah. And within that would be attractions and services and the rec center, all the wonderful things that the town, because I have run into this as well. People don't really understand what the Mound House is. The name is, it's not always Mound House Museum or come have fun at the Mound House. It's kind of ambiguous on that. So newcomers don't really know. So I agree, don't repeat all the info. Have all the culture and everything else that they're looking for.
If you go to TextMyGov and do that number and then text fun, we started very, very skeletal, what you guys are talking about, things to do. Very, very skeletal. We're still
fun.
very much
I love that. That's good.
filling that out. But yes, any more feedback or any more information, and I'll be showing you along the way different iterations that we get so that you can provide feedback. So please, if you think of anything else that way related to the website, please let me know. And
What's the text? Get TextMyGov.
it's 239-362-3224. And then it'll pop up with an intro message and tell you the different words that you can then text and find out more information about the town. We just started, we got to expand it, so please give me any feedback about that also. So
Say the number again, please, more slowly.
239-362-3224.
Thank you.
Did you have it correct?
Jim, thank you very much for that suggestion. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Jennifer? Not, then we'll move on to agenda number 8, Mound House Strategic Plan Update. So have you all had an opportunity to review the strategic plan? We have them here in our packet in hard copy, but it was also emailed to us a few days ago. Thank you for that. Something that we as CELCAB members are responsible for, to determine that the strategic plan is being appropriately implemented as was approved by us. And then obviously it is a working document, so it needs to be updated from time to time, which Allison has just done. So Allison, maybe you can kind of just give us a brief synopsis of what the updates actually are so that we can
Well,
review
if
that?
you, I'd be glad to, Barbara. If you look on page 2, we did have new marketing plan that was going on. That was short-term goal number 1, thanks to Jennifer Dexter and also Barbara Hill and VCB staff. We have a new marketing plan, and very excited to say celebrating 100 years of the Mound House, Lee County's cultural jewel. So that is a new marketing plan, and as soon as that application is vetted through the Friends, CELCAB will see the marketing plan that was submitted. Also, social media continues to be ongoing and very successful. On page 3, we have lots of new programming that we have done. In your packet of things that have the cards for kids, those are some of the ones that we've created, and that's going to be education for short-term goal number 1. Also talking about the one above that, about new programming, as Ellen Vaughn mentioned, about the book, Mound House book, and all the lecture series and things that we can do for events, as well as the 100 years of the Mound House lends us a lot of different venues and ideas to be able to do events and exhibits and other things. Also, when we have the underground exhibit stabilized for University of Florida and University of Georgia, we talked a little bit about that, I think, at our last meeting, how many events and programs that can generate. I think a lot of good opportunity for that. So that also has another educational goal. So those kind of overlap with things. So some of the new activities, they did activity cards that were actually mimicked by a MoMA art lab that I went to a couple of years ago and fell in love with the little activity cards in the galleries for the kiddos. Now this is just a pilot. So what you see in your packet, the masks and different things, those are inspired by the art lab, because I just love MoMA and thought they were super fun. And of course, this is a pilot program. So if you have any suggestions, and our audience will tell us what we need to change. So we did a layout of that, as well as a fun scavenger hunt that you could do on the grounds. That's also on our website. So the staff has been very, very busy with some things. Also, the net making that we have is actually in process. I was going to bring hands-on, but I didn't want anybody to share today. So we will update you on that later. But we got to buy some replica Calusa gauges and some different shuttles, and have a progression of Calusa and the time that the Cuban fishermen's, and then today. So we love that, and Katie Beth and the education team is busy doing a video to show how to actually make a net. So that should be completed by the end of the year. You never know how long this is going to take. She's got the software to do it, and she's already got the ideas. So we will be putting that out very soon. And so they have been really, really busy with some new additions with things. So on number 4, our summer camp did get canceled this year, but we hope to have Super Science back as our contractor for next year. I've already been in contact with Glenn, who is one that heads summer camp up for Super Science. So we're really hoping that next year we can have a normal camp. So for the volunteer portion, Dexter Norris is designated as volunteer trainer and coordinator, and then Katie Beth Culp is designated as also a volunteer trainer. I know many of you did the volunteer certification program, and that was also a goal for that. And they are also doing Zoom trainings and socials and meetings during this time, so that has continued. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that we are still trying to serve our community and our volunteer base during this time, that we have not been able to see each other in person. So I think that they have been very popular. And I also think for the summer months, when many of our volunteers are up north or gone, we should still have the Zoom, because it's really great to get everybody together and to catch up, and they seem to really enjoy it. So it's something that I think that we are going to still have even when the pandemic is over, because it helps keep everything fresh. They still learn, and they can still interact with the other volunteers. So very proud of the staff, and I think the volunteers those. So, and then the volunteer certification program, the first one that came, so that was really great. Unfortunately, some of the other ones on page 4 and 5, the volunteer appreciation event was canceled. That's usually annual. And some of the things that we normally do, like the summer camp. On page 5, let's see, we are the volunteer manual. So we are going to do kind of a template for the town for volunteers. When I was with Pinellas County, they had a wonderful program for volunteers. If you wanted to work at Heritage Village or the Botanical Gardens, or maybe you wanted to assist with a different department of the county, same thing for the town of Fort Myers Beach. People hopefully will be interested in volunteering at Bay Oaks and other departments. We have some really, really great resources that I think lend to volunteers to be able to help. I know Mound House, we love our volunteers. And so we are working on a manual, which means that we're kind of waiting until the personnel manual for the town to come out so we can put all that important information in there as updated as possible. They've got the table of contents and they've got a lot of the contents, but we're really trying to get it digitized so you click on a link and you can get it without having the paper, because with the articles and all of the notebooks, and it's very hard to know what's updated, because you all know research changes all the time. We love that. But we're trying to find a way to digitize it so volunteers can go and have access to all the information digitally. So
It will be done as a PDF so
Yes,
that it
yes.
doesn't, it's not impacted.
we tried Google Docs. I don't know if you all are familiar with that.
Right.
When people send you a link, you can go and see in PDF. We had a few little hiccups. We have a lot of information to put up there, so it's taken the team a little while to kind of figure everything out. But I think the thought is really good. It's a good plan. So I'm really looking forward to getting that completed. So we are busy working with that.
May I just interrupt for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I just have a question. When you're talking about a volunteer manual, is that the same thing as the docent
It will, yes.
manual? Okay, because it was my understanding that there was going to be a docent training program specifically for tours.
Yes, there was. We did have the certification program in January. And I think, how many people, Betty, did you go to, I know Lori did.
Lori did?
Lori did, Sheila did. I went both sections and missed the one thing, the same session in both sessions, so I'm not certified, but everything else.
So the volunteer manual has 2 sections to it. It has what I call housekeeping information, and then it has site-specific information. So like you're talking about interpretive information, maybe somebody wants to do beach walks, it has that. It has about the gardens, it has about the prehistory, it's all encompassing.
Oh, it's all encompassing, I see.
It is, and it made sense to be able to do kind of a template, so anybody, like Bay Oaks had a volunteer this past year, and what a wonderful thing to take the skeletal template and see, we add all of our history in, and all they have to do is take that housekeeping portion and add theirs in, because we all have different volunteer descriptions and things like that. So it was kind of a natural progression that the team came up with in order for anybody to use it, because we hope to have more interest for volunteers for Bay Oaks and different departments that would.
So this
Newton and
volunteer document will be applicable for not only Mound House, but also Newton Park and Bay Oaks.
Yes, so we will take information, just like you're saying, it'll be site-specific. Like, if you're not interested in volunteering at Newton, you may not get that portion. But if you're a volunteer at Mound House that do beach walks at Newton and want to cross-train, you'll get those sections in there. But not everybody needs to get everything, because maybe they're only at Bay Oaks, and maybe they don't need anything about Mound House, because our information is quite
Expensive.
Yes. It just keeps coming, and we love that. But with our suggested reading list and things like that, we have a lot to choose from. So those sections, like what Pinellas County and other municipalities do, depending on where you will get that supplemental information in your copy. Does that make sense? So it's something that we can use, but something that, for each site or interest, as far as the volunteer, they may want additional information about something.
When you're talking about Dexter being a volunteer coordinator, but then also
Trainer.
he's a trainer, Is he the coordinator or the director, and who's the other person that's the?
So Katie Beth, that's
Katie
the
Beth.
education team.
Okay, so it's a team, so the two of them coordinate?
Train, yes, they co-train. And of course, Penny Jarrett does too. But since her hours are reduced, she's not as prominent, but she definitely does some of the training as well.
Okay.
Those two, with their enthusiasm and their knowledge, and it's always fresh. You never hear anything that's like, that's what makes it so good. They're excellent.
Becky, yes.
Allison and everybody else, it seemed to me that there was something, and I don't know if it was the town who did it or a group, but there was some sort of all-day Saturday for 2 weeks in January, and they took everybody, and we visited, like Bowditch and Terry Kane came and talked to us. We visited it was a training,
I thought, is that not the leadership of the,
I
Fort
don't
Myers
know.
Beach Chamber has leadership classes that most municipalities do?
That's the leadership class.
Yeah, and they do. They go and take you all over the island, and you learn all different things.
yeah. And I mean, it would be nice if the volunteers knew to sign up for that and vice versa.
Yeah, for
Isn't
sure.
that done by CRAB?
Yes, it is. It is hosted by CRAB, and I know the chamber does try to get people to sign up, and they take some part in it, I know. But, yeah. Maybe it's just the chamber who calls me to say, would you mind hosting this? We'd love to be a stop on for the leadership. Yeah, you're right, CRAB does it. It's a great program. I really love that. Yes, we can make sure to let all of our volunteers know about that, because it is very helpful.
It's really a good one.
Okay, so is it okay to move on to
Yes,
the?
if you would,
Okay.
thank you.
So let's see. A lot of these are the short-term museum collections, which had already been. And Barbara, you had a question last time about where are they? They are secured in Town Hall. So that's where the existing collections. It is the securest place that we have on the second floor. So we have definitely secured them. And then your other comment was, will they be rotated? Yes, eventually they will. The good thing is about when we start these new programs and we have more research and archaeological research done, there will be things to be able to refresh and to share. So it will be, I think, a really good time to be able to change some of those out.
We don't know exactly when we're going to start with rotating exhibitions
No.
yet, because it's budget related, am I right?
Yes,
So-
and it's also with the university, so it could be field school for this 2021, or it could be 2022, so it's kind of, we're just waiting. We know it'll be in the summertime at some point. That's when their field schools are. Just don't
That's
know
when they're
when.
what, I'm sorry?
Their field schools, that's when they hold them, is in the summertime.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but you're right, we don't have an definitive date yet. And that actually leads us into page 6 at the top. I put summer 2021 or 22. Not really sure at this point when that is going to take place. But you all will be the first to know once I get definitive from Dr. Thompson and also Dr. Marquardt. So that leads into our rotating exhibits and topics of special interest. Will give us an opportunity to be able to do that once the excavation and the research has been conducted and the lab analysis on what they have found. Dr. Thompson and I have already talked about ideas on different things, early settlement of mounds and different areas that we can have exhibits and programs and things like that to educate our public. So I'm really excited about that. And I did, for the stabilization, I did submit a capital project for that. So it is budget related. So we'll see if the council, how the capital projects go for this fiscal year, but it has been submitted for council's approval.
Were you able to determine just how much to request? I mean, and what was that based on?
Search did an estimate some years ago that is pretty much the same as far as the excavation. And the audiovisual, I did the best to come up with what I thought it would be. It's very, very hard to gauge that. But if I don't have enough funds, maybe we'll fundraise, we'll figure something out for that. But I gave it my best guess, Barbara. That's
Right.
really all I could do. So, yeah, so they will be workshopping that. So-
That's related to this budget
fiscal-
cycle for the
yes,
next fiscal year.
That's
Got it.
correct. So, starting when they reconvene, you know, you'll see the council members having workshops, MMPs and things on the submitted budget for the town. So that'll be from August, and it finalizes in September. Okay, so the revenue and development. Of course, our annual membership, we were going to have a music one time, but that got canceled. So we'll reschedule that again in March of next year. The new products for the museum store, our new t-shirts have just been really great, and our women's are really outselling the men's, and so we're going to get some new designs. I love them because they're so beautiful and unique, and they're a walking advertisement for the men.
Sure.
We really love that. The company that I work for, we're getting our new order together. So, and then we're also looking for new sunscreen companies in Florida. So different products that we know that are sustainable and safe and things. So we're working on that as well. So, and then the new book for the Mound House. What a wonderful thing to be able to offer something that has been asked for almost consistently by every visitor. So really excited to be able to have that. So long-term goals, that's 2021. I do need to identify a volunteer to help publish corporate sponsorship levels that define benefits for both parties. Would love to have somebody volunteer. So if you know anybody who would like to participate in that or has experience at that, would love to talk with them. I do need help with that on the long-term goals number 3 of page 6.
I certainly will be able to help you with that.
Oh, I was hoping you would say that. But I didn't want to just put your name down.
I've put together sponsorship
Okay, I
packages
figured.
in the past, so I can be probably
right.
pretty helpful.
You know anybody else, thank you, Barbara, that would like to do that, please get the word out and let them know, because it's something that, opportunities for our events that are coming up and some of our research and things, I think are really great opportunity for those sponsorships to be able to when the time is right. So, okay.
Can you sort of touch a little bit more on the AAM accreditation process and, you know, when you intend for that to begin? And I know that it's in here as a goal, but just wanted to get a better feel for where we are with that.
Well, you know, everything that we have done with our volunteer program, Barbara, and others have always been part of that process. So we are building for our application. So having designated staff, having educated staff, full-time staff, establishing our programs, our special events, getting our collections, doing things in that nature, all will build up. I do think, though, this is, you know, things change, right? But I do think that the next year to be able to get the packet, because, you know, AEM did change some things for some of the smaller institutions, and I think you know this, Barbara, I don't know if you do, but it was so hard for really small institutions to be able to achieve some of the goals and the accreditation. And AESLH, which is the American Association for State and Local History, which I am also a member of, is the same national, different, but comparable to the field that I'm in, came up with a STEPS program because they knew that there were the AAM was some museums, small museums, it was unreachable for that. So I think that AAM has changed some of their guidelines, and I'm very excited to see that because, you know, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have even really, I mean, it would have been hard to even say where we are, but they've really done a great job. So I do think that everything that we've been doing helps us with that accreditation.
Some of the requirements by AAM for that accreditation really were almost insurmountable for major museums, much less small museums. The point was, you know, what was the humidity level of each room? What was the, you know, the actual temperature? What is your paid security? How are your collections rotated? You know, do you have an on-site conservator? I mean,
Right.
you know, these are all appropriate questions to ask. but it is largely, a matter of facility ability to be able to manage that, plus budget. And I think small museums, such as the Mound House is, really falls into a category where, that map access, that map accreditation is beyond our capabilities. But now, I think, as you say, they are loosening their rules to the extent that it will be a far easier process than it would have been.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job in that field, because not everybody is at a huge, like you said, even some of the larger museums could not do that credit or reach that accreditation. But we all want to be good stewards of our property and our collections and our programs. So strategic plan, check. So
Yes.
all of this is leading up. The thing is, as Barbara knows, and some of you other may know, it just takes, it's a long-term goal. It is
a long-term goal, and I think you put in 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
And really, the first 4 years has really begun to establish that professionalism, both with your docent training program, with your membership, with your website, with your mission and the strategic planning, and, the safeguards with regard to securing the collection. All our steps to even get us to the point where we can begin an assessment, which, as you say, probably is another 3 years out.
Yes,
I just
yes.
wanted to and that's exactly where it should be.
Right, and the assessment, I think they still, did they change the maps? I think, and the caps, that they have different.
It used to be 3.
It did, map 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
But they have little, what I call mini kind of assessments in different areas, and it's more, it's really great to do each step, because then you can focus on one area, and then you complete that, and then they go to another one, and that sets you up for accreditation. So that's something that definitely, when I feel that one area is ready for that, we will go through that, and then that allows you to be able to resolve things that may keep you from accreditation. They'll have those. I think they changed the name. Yeah, the maps, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Museum Assessment Program 1, 2, 3, right. Has to talk about governance,
Yes, a lot of
professional
different-
staff, which you've
That's right.
obviously
Education,
maintained.
outreach, actions.
Yep. Okay, excellent, thank you. And I really do love these
Yes.
ways to engage
These are
the young
terrific.
people.
They're
They're
just,
compelling.
I love them. I thought that they did a great job, and I just was super happy with them, even though we can change them. And it's a pilot program. I thought the first draft was really
And it's a
fun.
perfect weight, too, and
Yes.
hopefully it's not prohibitively expensive to do, and to draw your own mask is very cool.
And we asked people to share it on some of our social media on there, if they want to do that.
just-
Oh,
So,
cool.
Yeah. Some at the very bottom, it says if you want to share, it has our.
I think it's very cool.
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
I think the whole plan looks really good, Allison, and, how much you and your staff have been able to do under these difficult circumstances that we're living in, but the things that you've gotten completed, like in terms of the volunteers and the template,
It's
I
a
think it
perfect
looks,
size for kids.
no, I think it all looks really
Thank
good.
you,
Perfect
Cindy.
size.
It
You
has-
thought
it
of
has
not
been
only
quite
the content, but the size. I
challenge,
think
but
that's
I've
the
enjoyed
interesting
it. Yeah. We've had with Irma and then Red Tide, and now this. It has been. A lot of people ask, what were you doing during the pandemic? Oh, what a great time to be able to catch up with things. I mean, it really allowed the staff to take a look at what they had done. What do they need to do different? What are we doing in the future? And it was a great team building for us to be able to go through and serve our community through our Zoom. And, it's just been a really great time to really, have some progress on our.
One question I have is, Jennifer Dexter on board now, will she be doing media things for the Mound House too?
She's left.
I think that our contractor that I have, Dana, will still be doing that. She has a lot on her plate. She will definitely be sharing information for the town's website. I don't want to misspeak. But I do believe that with our arts and attractions funding that we get still, we still have some work to do as far as getting the word out. The Tropicalia that was mentioned, what was this? Yeah. But that used to have all the programs in it, and lately it's been Photos of Paradise. They've not been doing anything. But you know, we've been open for some time now in our programs and kayak tours, and the word is still not getting out. Dana's sending out press releases that we're now open, and I see Bailey Shell Museum. Well, that's all good and fine, but we have wonderful kayak tours, and we have some outside programs that could be very small. I've yet to see us in the paper or anything. So really looking forward to, you know, looking for an additional contractor. So if you all know anybody that would like a little bit of part-time work through this, that's press releases, let me know, because that's the matching is what actually pays Dana. She is full-time now at WGCU, so she is unable to do as much as she did, and she did email me that just a couple of weeks ago. So I know Jennifer's going to help us in any way she can, but I really feel that we do need to still get somebody who can spark those special interest stories, contact the media when we have festivals, especially with our celebration coming up of 100 years. It does so good to have, you know, one of the news channels out on a live shot to be able to let everybody know about your event and just the different venues that we can into. I think we still have some work to do. Okay, so
You mentioned the Arts and Attraction Grant. What is the timeline with that?
we will be notified, usually it's mid-October.
Okay,
Is
not
when
till mid-October.
we'll get
just so-
notified, and the funny thing is that it's in the fiscal year, you get notified for the fiscal year, but it's just the way it is. Usually the check presentation is mid-November, is usually when it is, so, and you all have gone to that. So they will let us know, and I thought our application was just stellar this year. Thank you all who helped, Barbara.
Welcome. Work, I'm just saying.
I so needed it because it needed such a refreshing, and Barbara just came right in and loved the Lee County's cultural jewel and just came up with it. I'm like, I'm so using this every time I read it. So,
That's
but yeah,
okay.
so mid-October is usually when they come out.
Excellent. We will get all 20,000.
Yes.
That's our request.
It's a really, really great program and marketing plan, as you know. Very hopeful, and I think. Okay, so
Newton Beach Park.
yes, if there's no further questions or anything, we'll start. You know, this year was especially this season was really when we were going to progress on the strategic plan for Newton. I think you're going to see more delays in this one than, as I was going through it, I professionally and personally didn't feel that we got near as far as we should have, but it was unforeseen circumstances. I do, and Jim, hopefully this is okay to share, that you would volunteer to help anyway with Newton Beach Park.
Oh, sure, yeah, I was going to say a couple things, but well, you go ahead and finish.
Okay. So I am looking forward to getting volunteers and people dedicated to help with that. Our staffing, we really, with our programmatic things that we're dealing with right now, have not been able, especially with the COVID, have not been able to do the programming that I had. Our beach walks, though, still are Tuesday, Thursday, year round. We're still doing those, and it's outside program. Excited about that. So if we'll start on page 2 of that, and that's the first thing about the Florida Communities Trust Agreement. I did my progress report for this year. I think it was during the pandemic. I think I remember it was maybe in April. They were very happy with all of our, accomplishments and our progress with Newton. And we are doing beach walks every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that is something that we are going to continue to do. Also, for our regularly scheduled programs, and our last meeting was actually in February for CELCAB.
It was, so we didn't get the minutes?
Actually, it was January. I'm sorry. It was
January
I'm sorry.
23rd.
Yes. I'm sorry. And I think Sherry Smith had brought up that she wanted to see more conservation cafes, and we were going to schedule them for March. And then, well, that's what happened. So they got so the next couple got canceled. Lecture series, pretty much everything on this page. The bocce ball court, still would love to see if we could get like the thought was is to try to get the condo associations, they want to have tournaments or something, try to improve so people know what it is.
Yeah.
Signage, actually, one of the staff.
There's no
did.
one really using it, am I correct? Or is
That is
that because
correct.
they can't get the
I
equipment?
don't think they know what it is. I don't know. See, that's what we have to find out. That's what I would love. On here is to have a volunteer to gather information about what people want to see. If you look on the reviews, we haven't claimed our reviews, but people love the beach. They have really great reviews. So that is definitely on the to-do list, Barbara.
Okay.
For sure. And that's something I was telling Jim about, that Florida Communities Trust. He's talking about, well, why is the bocce ball course there? And we had discussed this in the strategic planning, that Florida Communities Trust Agreement talks about passive recreation and recreation of some sort. Too small to put a volleyball court. What are we doing for recreation there? Bocce ball court was just what was there. We can change that Florida Communities Trust Agreement. You just have to notify the state and go through the process. So if we find out that that's not working for us and we find something that's different that does, I know, I would definitely submit it and see if it would get approval, to see if we could offer whatever program.
Initially, bocce seemed like it was going to be a good thing. Yes.
Beach, wow, yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
So we're going to investigate that further.
It was also very popular at that time,
Oh,
Yes.
so maybe
replaced by pickleball.
Yeah,
pickleball, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Right.
you can see us with a pickleball there. Ooh, over that seawall.
Yeah, liability.
So on page 3, talk about programming, specific needs to students of all ages. Mound House and Bay Oaks Summer Camp for 2021. We do serve some of the Bay Oaks camp last year, as well as, of course, our own summer camp for Mound House, and do hope to be able to bring that back, to be able to have specific needs for different students of all ages. And also, explore the viability of interactive touchscreen and other educational museum components. That really is a huge budget item. Having staff that has to staff and then to ready the cottage, that's going to take a little bit more planning. And, I put 2022. When we get to that phase, we need to see about budgetary, because my staffing now, I would not be able to staff that. And love for volunteers to enhance it, but if you're going to have regular hours and really feel that you need to be able to put a staff there, if for some reason you have a volunteer, and I'm just not able to do that on a regular basis. So I don't want to do this and it not be what the community support and what it would be. Have something there 2 hours every third week of the month or something. I need to really think this through to see what that would entail for budgetary. Make sure that we had this, and then also for the equipment and things. It's a pretty big, seems simple, but
Not simple.
can be very expensive. For the staffing, so here's where, we're talking about train and recruit volunteers to greet and teach visitors. Our beach walks kind of do that, although we definitely would love to expand that. So we do have our beach walks, and we wanted to do 4 hours per week, so that would require additional programming. So we hope in season 2021 we'd be able to get back in there and utilize that. The next one, ongoing on-site staffing, and that's an ongoing thing related to the budgetary item to number 8 above. Recruit and assess value of bocce ball courts. Here it is. Make recommendations to fully utilize or change space. So that's where the discussion was. Maybe some of the condo associations, do they still have tournaments? Would it be something they'd be interested in? Question mark, question mark. So some of the other ones, and Barbara, thank you for noting this. We had talked about paint colors for Newton, but I did not put it on the agenda. So I thought today, we had talked about that. I did bring a Sherwin-Williams color collection of paint colors over here. And so if you all wanted to individually or social distance, you can go see it. But I thought maybe for the next meeting, we could have a discussion about what you all thought about the paint color. In a little baggie, there is our neighbor, Joe and Carol, and Joe participated in the strategic planning, if you remember, they're our neighbors, and she has a great eye for design. She gave me a little note with some suggestions if we wanted to, if we wanted to keep with the same color palette, and so she put a few little samples in there as well. So that is for you all to look at. If it's okay, we would, I'll put it on as an agenda item for next time.
See the different shades of gray?
Well, I think it's to talk about our colors because, yes, Betty, I'm not a big fan of the gray, I just have to say.
Wasn't there the idea that you could scrape a tiny portion of the outside to determine what the original color of the
Is
house was?
that really what you want to do, Barbara? Because you're going to come up with the color that you have
It was
now.
that color.
It was that color. So
What's that?
It was that color.
that color.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was that color
Yeah.
originally?
So
Yeah.
there's, I am all about historic preservation, but that looks like a construction trailer. And you've heard me say that. It's very, it just, I pass right by it. It just
I
does
think just
not
white
lend.
would be lovely then.
Can you
just a
hold
little
it up?
top a little.
Lend. So, yeah, that is definitely something that we have lots to talk about, for sure.
Well, and perhaps the idea of our thinking about what the houses were in terms of the colors in the 50s, and that house was that house built on in the 40s or the 50s?
50s,
The 50s.
53.
Okay, and so looking at that palette and coming up with something, yes, I think it was a little over 50 years ago, maybe 60 years. We had that conversation about 10 years ago, if you
Right,
remember.
exactly.
Right,
exactly,
so it's
yeah.
about 60 years ago now. But in the 50s, that there would be this color palette that was used by, pink was a big one, if you remember.
Oh, yes, I
Right?
sure do.
And so, let's think about that.
That would be good homework for you all, if you don't mind, for next
Right.
meeting, to come with your suggestions. Be glad to let you all pass this around, take your time with it, just bring it back with you at the meeting so you can have your color selected.
Or we could go to Lowe's and look at the samples there and pick out several and bring them with us.
Yes, whatever you want to do, it's just,
As long as it's gray.
Blue gray.
that's
There's-
not
there's
necessarily,
a lot of-
I'm not a big gray fan, I'm going to pick something
There's a lot of,
totally different, Betty.
there's a lot of really blue grays that are pretty
That
too.
is, yes.
There are a lot of blue grays over there.
Yes.
That are very pretty.
I saw the one that you
Yeah, the neighbor
held out
picked up.
had that
on
blue
it.
gray look,
Yeah, she used Carol's
and it
gray.
just perked it up. I
Yeah.
mean, just,
Oh, yeah.
boy, what a
Especially
difference
with
that
the
would
trim
make.
color, she had some trim color. Okay, so definitely put that on for agenda for next time.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
Agenda item.
To give direction on your homework to bring back. So the social media, to post regularly on social media. Love going through this plan. It reminds me of what we need to accomplish. So we do have TripAdvisor reviews on Newton Beach Park. You should look that up. We have not claimed it to be able to manage, and that means to be able to comment on things, as people, but it's all good. We have 4.6 on there. I'm really excited about that. But we are going to be, staff is going to be working to claim and to start posting, because that was something that was on our to-do list for Newton Beach Park. We will definitely be working with Jennifer Dexter, make sure that we get all the information she knows about the Facebook, the Instagram, as well as any kind of TripAdvisor reviews we can do. So, and then we're also working with her and increasing the information on Town of Fort Myers Beach webpage. And she did say November, I put December, but her goal really is November 1st for that. So, and then that will lend to the online calendar and classes for programs. We would have to be able to do that through, not only we do it on the website for Mound House, but she sends out top 10 and it goes out there to the town as well. Right now it's combined with the Mound for Newton. Long-term goals, we can talk about that town branding is being completed, and are we going to change the name? That was something that has been brought up, so I put summer 2022 for that. Have to have some, input.
Wasn't Betty working on that? Weren't you doing something about Do I remember that? The name change?
Yes.
To wait till 2022?
Yes. No, it's a long-term goal. This marketing specifically to event planners and small groups, we're making improvements. We're getting a small little refrigerator in there in the next few weeks. We're going to make some improvements for the budgetary to be able to, for people to be able to have caterers in there. Not a huge thing, but more than what it is now. I think the timing will be right to be able to get, planners in there after we finish that so they can see the potential of how it could be used. So refrigerator, because it was so small, it's going to be more like a little RV. It's not going to be a huge full-size fridge because that little space in the kitchen is not that large.
No.
But we will be able to have more than what we have now, which is, we're excited about that.
Okay.
That whole kitchen is my size.
Yeah. I love it. It's all right there. It's in a little triangle. It's
The reason I have one is because it came with the house.
I know. Small kitchen. Okay, so the next one, explore expansion of Wi-Fi to the beach area. I'm going to have to get with Evolve Tech and see the IT staff to see if we can do that. I think that we'll take an email and something that hopefully I'll be able to have an update on fairly quickly. Investigating integrating insurance for rentals with town insurance. This came up with Joe in our strategic plan of why do we have to have separate insurance? We do. The town cannot be self-assured and cover somebody who's having an event who's serving alcohol and then that person gets killed or injured or somebody else. That is not something that is smart and not something we should be taking on liability for. So I did work with the League of Cities and he gave me really great examples of the certificate of insurance that people should hold. We should not be liable for somebody who drinks on our property, who serves alcohol, and then can go and possibly injure others or themselves. That is not something that we should be doing, and it's not something that we're going to do. So it is still required if you serve alcohol at your event that you hold that insurance and liability. So that is something that I did vet with the League of Cities and also for town council for that to be able to, because it all goes with the special event permit, and it is in there and required for that because it is just a protection for all. Also our property, for any damage that gets to our properties. These are, designated hopefully to be a historical register, national register like Mound House, but something that we need to be aware of as well. So that's something, it was a really good research that I did because I could use it for Mound House as well. And it is just a protection for us, for the caterers coming in to know that they hold full liability, which most licensed caterers already know that if they have their alcohol license. So it's only private individuals doing things and not having a caterer.
Are you having any complaints from the neighbors at all? Because, we used to hear when you walk down and back and forth, they'll talk to you about that. But I haven't heard of any complaints when I'm walking. So it sounds like it's kind of settled in and you're not hearing anything about late at night of people jumping off the deck or anything like that.
No, I haven't heard any of that, Seal.
That's wonderful. We've come a long way.
Yeah.
We've come a long
That's
way,
right, I
baby.
love that. No news is good news. Yeah, I haven't heard anything. For the next page, on page 6, develop, educate visitors on environmental issues. We are ongoing with that. And then what got completed, notify Florida Communities Trust of any changes. This is number 7 under long-term. I did that for already annually. Tram stop, that's going to take some doing. Still on there to see if we can get a tram stop. That was ideal. You all wanted it not to stop where the library is, but it to go all the way down. So, the tram, that is kind of a fairly new program. So I am up for seeing if that can ever be extended because I think the demand for that is really wonderful.
Absolutely.
And the last year it was so popular, they had more and they extended it. So I do think that, hopefully it will be a good sell for them to see if they would like to bring people down there because...
I mean, who operates the tram and who makes that decision? The town?
No, it's Lee County.
Okay, so it's the county. So
Tram?
the county,
Yes, it's Lee Tram.
who presents this to the county as an opportunity?
I haven't figured that out yet. got the contact from Chelsea just to see who, and that was also for like marketing opportunities, because we had talked about putting something on the tram, you know, about our sites to see. But I would have to research that. I do know that TDC was very good in funding that project.
Right.
So I could probably get some additional information. I'd love to run it by some of the VCB staff to see if they think it would be a potential project that could be funded, because it would take a little bit, you know, not much, but it would make the stop a little bit longer, but.
Well, actually, yeah, and, you know, because TTC has been very generous, not only with Mount House, but also with Newton Park,
Yes.
and that because Rexanne serves as our representative
Our
on
new liaison,
TDC,
yes.
VCB, that maybe that rationale can be presented as a reason why the tram needs to extend to Newton Park, because this is also a TDC
And it's
supported.
great. Look at all the things you pass, Mount House. I mean, there's a lot of things that you would
Yeah,
be
past the
able to
library,
see.
indeed.
Exactly.
And they could turn around, they're gonna need a place they can turn around,
Yeah,
which
I
they can do
know.
at the library.
They can, and I think that was one of the things. We have
They
a
can
little
turn
bus
around there if they
thing,
go
but I know, I
through
don't
the
know that the
parking lot,
parking lot
yeah.
would.
Through the
that's
parking lot
right.
to the
I know
beach
it's a
park,
very
to
tight
the
little
beach
thing.
parking lot, yeah.
He has a question.
So that was what my,
Yeah.
you know, unless we could find a turnaround,
I
or
know, 'cause
if
they have a
Publix
little
would let you
pullover,
use it,
they
but
don't
that's
have
also a liability thing.
Investigate that.
And around there.
Okay.
Area, maybe.
So, you know, the short-term goals with the partnerships, you know, the Matanzas Pass, the Friends of Matanzas Pass Preserve does that Florida Master Naturalist class, and they just lost their instructor, so
Right.
I don't really know where that's going to go, but I would love for my staff to be able to teach that. It's a very, lot of training needed, so I don't, you know, it's just something to look into. I think it's a wonderful program.
Well, I think that, you know, because of the pandemic, a lot of these kinds of things have sort of fallen off to the side. And plus, Matanzas Pass going through a major renovation.
Their
So
boardwalk
there's
and
really
kayak launch.
there's no activity going on down there at all. Once that
Absolutely nothing.
preserve is open and totally remodeled and updated, then I think that we can address that issue with them for dual programming.
I think the timing will be better, Barbara, for sure. So is number 3, like explore collaborative relationships and related environmental and historical organizations.
Exactly.
That Uncommon Friends Foundation meeting, it got postponed, and then the pandemic. So we are really looking forward to getting them, just to let them see
Be a
the
part of it.
cottage and things like that.
You, Betty? Betty.
No, it's Lori.
It's what?
It's Lori.
Oh, Lori.
So,
Beg your pardon, I thought I had
And turned off.
So explore
should say at the
possibilities for
beginning of
sharing
the-
existing resources within town of Fort Myers Beach, such as Bay Oak Rec staff. This is something that we're really looking forward to for 2021, for the fall, to see how we can, and we're already kind of sharing staff within our organizations. It's a wonderful thing. We really love that. And then the town comprehensive plan, this is just something to do an annual check to ensure that our property is in compliance, and that's something we do. So, all right, so are there any, I know Jim has some comments about this. Are there any comments from you all before?
I'd like to hear from Jim at this point, and I'll have some comments as well.
Well, Jim, do you want to share some of your thoughts?
No, I just first of all wanted to say apologize for not being there in person. I'm on our condominium board, and last week we had a condominium board meeting that went for an hour and a half, and one of the people at the meeting later notified us that they had tested positive for COVID. So I feel fine, but I wanted to err on the side of caution, and I didn't want to expose anybody.
Thank you.
So that's why I'm not there in
Thank you.
person.
Yeah, thank you.
Certainly not an indication of my lack of interest by any sense of the word. I apologize for not being there in person. I'm thankful, Allison, for allowing me to be able to call in and hear what all you've been working on. I would also say, too, the last couple of years I had the privilege of serving on the LPA. I really have a firsthand appreciation for the value that all the advisory committees, the value they add to our town. So I have great respect for CELCAB. I have great respect for what you do and the time that you expend on behalf of the Mount House and on behalf of Newton Park. So I just want you to know I'm someone who was on an advisory committee and appreciates what you all do. So I certainly value that on behalf of the town. So thank you for your service. I won't go into all my background because you all suffered through a campaign just for a few months. So I won't put you through all that. But I did major in history from the University of Wisconsin a few years back, and so I do have a love and appreciation for the Mound House. And just because my wife and I are so physically active, we spend a lot of time at Newton Park. We're biking, walking, running past that park almost daily. And so I spend a lot of time at Newton Park, and those restrooms that were renovated, they're spectacular. Whoever spearheaded that did an awesome job, and it's such a wonderful community resource. I would just add, I was part of that leadership series last year that CRAB sponsors, which was excellent, and they gave us a tour of inside of the building at Newton Park, which was the rehab is just beautiful, and I think there'll be a great opportunity with additional amenities for you to be able to do some small weddings, and there might be quite a revenue enhancing opportunity with all the opportunities for people to do receptions and so forth, because it's such a beautiful location. I would just say I think I love the idea of changing the color of the building and painting it something that's circa 1950s, but something a little lighter and drawing more attention. I also love the idea, and again, I think the bocce ball courts were extremely well intentioned. And they really did a nice job on them, but having been by there almost every day for the last couple of years, I've never once seen anybody play bocce ball there. Again, well-intentioned, and I love that. I understand Allison has this need for passive recreation. I heard someone today mention potentially pickleball there. I don't know if that works from a naturalist standpoint, but it's a great idea because, boy, pickleball is really, really popular right now. And that would really draw people to the park. The other thing I have found just really interesting, just as someone who's been to that park on a regular basis, people flock to the edge of that seawall on the park. That's right next to the beach. There's about maybe a 2 or 3 foot drop there with that seawall. But up above that seawall, it's just a thought for the future. If we could maybe landscape some areas for people to sit. They just love to be above the beach there by just 2 or 3 feet. There's something that they'll come early to get those spots, and they'll be there most of the day, and it's really an interesting draw. It's almost like you're sitting up on a little boardwalk there, but that's a really interesting draw for people. And I think if we landscape that just under the premise that maybe people would be coming to visit there, that really might enhance participation in that park and just provide additional resources for the park. So really interested in helping on the Newton Park front. Love Mound House. The Mound House, of course, in my view, is a well-oiled machine. You've done such wonderful work there. But I do think there's some wonderful opportunities at Newton Park, and I look forward to being your advocate and your liaison with the council. And again, I will be diligent and certainly in person most of the time, except for these sort of bizarre times in which we're living in right now. But I thank you for the opportunity to say hello today, and I look forward to working with everyone.
We look forward to working with you too, Jim. Thank you. And I really appreciate the fact that you have been patient in listening to our meeting today. And I'm very appreciative of your input, which I think is so valuable because you are a member of council now, and your thoughts and your recommendations are very seriously considered by all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
I have a question with getting back to Newton Park with regard to the signage, which I know was at some point going to be considered, and I'm not quite sure.
It's on there on the strategic
It
plan.
is, yes, it's on page 4. Add signage on, this is something we've been talking about since the inception of Newton Park. And I do remember that somebody said that we couldn't do it because there was a sign ordinance. And so it sort of dropped off of the planet, but I'm happy to see that it is on our strategic plan, but it says 2021. Didn't really determine, because this is partially a CELCAB responsibility, I see, didn't really determine who is going to be coming up with the design. Is there funding for that design? If this is a permit from the town, might there be a variance considering it is their property, our town's property? But I think that to Jim's point, that is a treasure there, and I don't think enough people really know it's there, even though it is fronting Estero, that just doesn't have a big presence. I think the signage and certainly the repainting of the building itself will go a long way in terms of increasing its exposure. So my question is, is there funding set aside for fiscal year 2021 for the design of these two signs? Because if our target is 2021, that obviously impacts our budget 2021.
So Barbara, to answer your question, TDC funded the signage for new. So that has been submitted, depending on the design that you wanted, because not only does the town have to approve the permit, because it's a historical property, it has to go before the LPA and the Historic Advisory Board.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
that was one of the things that first initial design did not get past them, did not get approved according to what.
From LPA.
Yes, from the LPA.
The sign that we had that was
It was the,
like
it was
an
a
entrance.
mural-like,
We're
yeah.
looking at an entrance
Yeah,
sign.
it's a curve.
So I will be glad to, we can revisit that to get a cost, because the cost really depends on the design. We have some funds set aside for the TDC that will get approved, like the town budget, so really finalized in September. There's one more meeting in August for the TDC board to finalize theirs before it goes to the Lee County Commissioners. So we just kind of have to see where the TDC is on that, but also what kind of design are you looking for? Because if it is something that is going to be more than what was submitted, then we can go ahead and have the design, pay for the design, and then see about extra money to be for the next fiscal year. And I hate to do that, but it depends on what design you all want, because signage can be very expensive depending on, what you're wanting. You were more, I think what you all were originally looking at was more like an public art. It was a beautiful piece that you all wanted to draw people's attention to the cottage.
We were looking at a sign that would operate as a gateway.
Right.
So it's not necessarily public art. It was a functional, sign that you would walk through to get to the front door of the Seven Seas.
And you felt like you had arrived.
Thank you, yes.
It was an
It gave that property a sense of presence.
Yes.
Which I know TDC's got that sign up there right now, and that's fine as a temporary sign. And maybe this is a little premature because we're looking at our new logo now for the town. So maybe we need to wait until all of that comes into play, and maybe that landmark sign or that gateway sign can be part of the larger conversation, having to redo the signage for the town of Fort Myers Beach anyway, and that'd be a conversation with Jennifer to have.
Because those will change, you're right. The TDC access ones that are next, the Strand View, those will change. You're absolutely right. She was just talking about that.
Exactly, and so in addition to that gateway entrance off of Estero, I think it's vital to also have a sign on the Gulf side for all those people that walk up and down that beach that have no idea what this property is all about.
They
And I
could
think,
see 7 Cs.
exactly,
Right, and
exactly.
see with the name change too. So that was something I think now I'm thinking about, we're talking about signage, are we going to change the name? I mean, so how.
What comes first, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, but I think it's important that we have this conversation, that we don't lose sight of it, because
Exactly.
it's vague in terms of, who's going to go for the permit, who's, what does LPA
I'll
think?
work through just like I did for Mound House and for the
Yes.
existing Newton, I'll be glad to work with the town to get the permit in and to go to the LPA and get things approved that way.
Didn't they nix it because it didn't coincide with what the sign requirements were? That was my thought, is the
Yeah,
council said, no, we're not making
Right.
an exception for you all.
Right, so I think if it's incorporated with all the other signage that the town is now responsible for updating, both the entrances of, from both bridges onto our island, that those will look the same and that people
I
will
don't think
recognize.
it's the design, it was the size, it did not conform with the sign ordinance. So,
Right, but
Before
I think that was a political hot button, if you remember, Becky, back then, when the
It was,
conversation was
true.
had. Right now, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
And I think because we're trying to incorporate this with the other signage, and perhaps Jim can be somewhat helpful in this area in terms of why it's important.
We do have a new town logo. It is a perfect time to improve. We
Exactly.
started somewhere, it's not working, now we make improvements.
So I would suggest maybe 2022 as a target
Okay,
date
for
to
sure.
have that done, but that way we've got the new logo, we've got the sign ordinance
Looking at the Gulf
variants.
side, looking at the
Yes,
Gulf
the
side
Gulf
too.
side,
And
and then
incorporate
what is
and
that
do
sign
both
saying
and
to
on the
people,
Gulf.
right?
Yeah.
The roadway is done and
Yeah, and then the
Looks good.
roadway is
Right.
done, so we're
It'll
gonna
look
make
good.
all that happen, but, you know,
Okay, this is very good, thank you for all that.
If I could just say, I love that idea. I love having a sign that could be seen both from Estero and from the beach side. And I would be happy to help. I've been on the LPA for 2 years. I don't remember ever turning that down. That must have happened.
before.
It was long before
It was.
that, yes, long
Definitely.
before that, Jim, yeah.
It sounds like a wonderful idea.
thank you, Jim. I really love that. I love what
Yeah.
you just said.
Thank you.
Hold that thought.
Remember that thought.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments and questions about the updates on our Newton strategic
No, I
plan?
think that's good.
None? Okay. Thank you very, very much, Allison.
welcome.
Tremendous amount of work on both strategic plans, but it certainly keeps us updated on what is on the short-term and long-term strategy going forward. Director's report, it's back to you, Allison.
Yes, I just gave you the memorandum, which is, it served as my monthly report to the council, but it has a lot of great things that are going on for the facilities, and I was pressed for time, and I do apologize, but has a lot of good information on there. There were a few other things that I wanted to add from last meeting, and I believe that it was the chair, Barbara Hill, that brought up revenue for the parking at Newton Beach. Oh, yeah. The annual revenue approximately. Now, this was for 18-19 because we did have some red tide and some unusual circumstances, so they pulled a revenue that was, kind of a year that we had, good steady. It was about $30,000 for just Newton Beach Park. Now, that's not Strand View. Strand View is a different, so they pulled for that. So that was a question that I wanted to go ahead and answer for that. And just to let you all know, I think it has a recap in there about our programming at the top of the report. We closed on March 19th is when we snugged everything up at the properties, and then May 19th we got to open up the museum 50% capacity. We're still using CDC guidelines, and because we are so close proximity to staff, like within our museum store, and we don't have our plexiglass barrier yet, we are requiring masks, and we have not had anybody say if they don't have one. Most people now are coming with masks, and it is only because we don't have our plexi barrier, and we are not able to and also the town ordinance that passed, not able to social distance. And so we are complying with all that. Things have been very good, and we are seeing some participation in kayak tours in some of our programs. We're very excited about that. And the staff has just done a phenomenal job adjusting to the new requirements that we have. So we had for June, for instance, since we were open that full month of June, we had about 180 people come through the museum. That was not very bad for only open 3 days a week. So we were really excited to be able. We had 7 participate in our Mangroves by Kayak Tour, and of course 6 for our family fun. So we were, getting more people, and this is without any kind of coverage in the news press. This is all just social media and local. Beach Observer, unfortunately, has not had anything about our openings, although I've been sending information as well. But of course, the Sandpaper has had really good information on some of our programs. So I think that we're doing really good for what's going on right now.
I agree. Considering the circumstances, you've been doing well. I am concerned about a budget shortfall, given the fact that obviously the town has staff and, buildings to maintain and pay. So where are we in terms of budget, because obviously we're not getting income from a lot of the programs that we normally have. Is it dire? Is it?
The budget that I submitted for last year was the same as this year, so not to increase any cost. And I know CELCAB had an opportunity to ask for money for the National Register celebration last year. That did not get submitted. So because of whatever circumstances, but I did get everything in that to be able to maintain my operations as it is now. So it's really up to the council to workshop that and see how things look for that. All my capital projects get approved but it will really be up to the council to see where that stands. So you all, it's going to be on the agendas August and September, so that's where they did not lessen anything. I'm pretty skeletal right now. I've run a very, very tight ship. And I'm very proud of being so budget conscious, and we have done really well. I feel really good about what I submitted, and to be able to justify everything and goes into good use for taxpayers' dollars. Always very mindful of that. So we really just going to have to see what happens at the budget sessions. I am prepared to answer any questions that they have about any specific items in that budget, but it's a really good process. The new software that we have allows directors to get in and make notes and to really do some wonderful reporting. So this is, I think, the third year maybe that we've had that, and I think the best year to be able to project out with all the great data that we had. So the finance department did, again, a fabulous job in providing that, the reports and also the information that we need to be able to really see where we are and to be able to project out very accurately. So,
and I think,
Allison, may I say something just briefly on that?
Sure.
Of course, we're just going into the budget process, and this is obviously my first time through the budget process, but just watching what's happened thus far, I think we could be pretty encouraged that there won't be any problems going forward with respect to what Allison is requesting, because things have happened. Last year, the town council raised the mill rate just a tad, help prepare for some of these broader projects at Bay Oaks, Bayside, and Times Square. And then just a few weeks ago, we redirected how the town's stormwater system is funded. For a while, some general fund dollars were used to support the stormwater system. Now the rates will reflect the true cost, and that money that would have gone from the general fund to the stormwater system will now remain in the general fund, which should help finance the three projects that were asked about earlier: Times Square, Bay Oaks, and Bayside. So we have the funding stream from the mill rate last year, and then we have the funding stream from no more subsidies, town general fund subsidies to the stormwater, from the stormwater fund to the stormwater system, because those rates are going to be raised to reflect the true costs, just like on the water side. The water rates will go up to reflect the true cost to the system. They'll be standalone, so the general fund will no longer subsidize these two entities, which frees up money to do the things that we need to do for the town. So I again, having not gone through this before, I would just say that I'm cautiously optimistic that things will flow relatively smoothly, even given the challenges that we've had with COVID. So I just thought I'd just throw that out there, because I know we've got a lot of community leaders on this board, and I just thought you might find that of interest.
that is most encouraging, and I love the fact that revenue from the stormwater project will, help cover, or the savings will help cover some of the capital improvement projects that we've been working on. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank Allison for her appropriate tightening of the belt mechanisms, however she did it, but she obviously worked magic to make the fact that, in these dire times with low attendance, that she's made it work for her, and not only in terms of the operations, but also in terms of the budget. So, thank you. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Allison.
I had one question on the report. I'm curious about met with the president of the Q Media Productions. That looks interesting. Is that going to happen? Can that happen?
So that was super exciting. I'm glad you brought that up because I had just met with her about the audio tours. And you should look up the Q Media Productions and make sure you put productions after it because there's a lot of different Q Medias. So it was to be able to provide additional information for people on their cell phone. Okay, so we were looking at different ways to enhance the visitor experience and to offer additional information to people. So that went really well, and actually I haven't even looked at her proposal from when I got back from vacation, but they're a wonderful Florida-based company. They've done a lot of great things. And very excited to be able to have that conversation. I did get some prices out of her because I really needed to see what would require us to add that. And the great thing is it's a layered, like you do this, and if you want to add on an additional component of that, you can, put money forth. So you pay for a basis. So yes, and I need to look at that email. I haven't gotten through all that, but it was I think it's something that we can actually afford. Which was a really great thing. I was really excited to be able to speak with the company. Is very reputable.
What is the name of the company again?
Q Media Productions.
Q Media?
Q, the letter Q, Media Productions. And you have to put, Florida. I think I can't remember where in Florida. They're not far from here, but they are a Florida company. They've done a lot of great things. And great interpretive writers. You always want to have somebody who understands that process. It's great to have all the technology, but if you don't really have that basis, sometimes things can get a little, not so quality. But yeah, that was a really great. I forgot I did that.
Well, would that have to be, would something like that have to be limited to people with visual issues? I mean,
Well, they actually, it's both. You can do the audio descriptive, which they absolutely do for people with low or no vision. And yes, and then they're trained for that. It's a specific thing. And then also just to be able to have an interesting audio. Yeah. Like I've had some that have been okay. So it is an art form for sure. I'm really interested in that for both of those because many people may not be able to get up to see something and just visualize it. It's really great. Yes, thank you for noticing that there, Cindy.
that's all right.
Okay, so that's my director's report in a nutshell. Anything else you all have questions?
Thank you, Allison, for the director's report. Any other questions for Allison?
I just think this memorandum, to put it all the way she has done, it's just as overwhelming.
I know.
This is something that staff does each month for the council. So sorry I
That's
didn't
great.
get to put director's report up there, but most of the time I pull from it and put some numbers in it, but numbers have been a little slow in coming, so I'll do an end of fiscal year recap for that for you all, for visitors.
This really is really fills the bill, so thank you. I like the
would
fact
say,
that it's,
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
No point
I like
in
it too.
rewriting
One page,
it for any reason.
yes.
Yeah, short, sweet, bullet points.
Kudos.
Okay, board member items and reports. So I'll begin with Lori. Lori, do you have anything to report?
I don't, but I just want to pick up on, something that Allison said about requiring the mask, and now that the town has required the mask, and I am so proud of our town for doing that.
Yes.
I mean, because, I was open the whole time, and I worked alone 6 days a week, and 40% of my customers would come in without a mask. I'm an old lady. I was scared. I really was. So I'm so glad we in Sanibel have required
Exactly.
masks.
Absolutely.
I have to tell you, on July 4th morning, I went down to the beach pier and I walked on the beach pier. I saw 15 people. I was the only one wearing a mask. The only one, and that was right around 9 o'clock in the morning. So certainly wasn't 100% involvement.
It's too bad.
Okay, so anything else, Lori?
No, it's just so nice to see everybody and to get an update. I just feel so disconnected So this was really good.
I think we have all been feeling that way, and I agree with you. It's great to see everybody and hear everybody.
Yes.
Betty?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that it had been 6 months until I went through the minutes. I thought, holy cow, what has happened? But can't say enough for our town council that did say that we do have to have those masks. And we had them on this morning at our CELCAB meeting, and we're all trying to listen to each other, and we decided that so long as we were here
distancing.
and we had the distance, that we could take off our masks till we get ready to step outside. But appreciate that, and really appreciate all the efforts that you've done in this last 6 months. Allison, I mean, it's just outstanding what has happened. Jim happened to mention that we all listened to him a little bit during the campaign, and I was very careful when listening to what they had to say with regard to CELCAB and CELCAB. And I cut out one of their articles, and I've kept that. And so I'm, it's awfully easy to, when you're campaigning, to get on one particular subject. And I think that we're fortunate to have the people that we have on our council now that are well-rounded and are going to be helpful to us. And so I think that's, they deserve some kudos too, definitely.
But you're keeping tabs on them because of what they've said.
I've got the article.
She has not forgotten. She wants those campaign promises kept.
Yep. I keep all those files. I mean,
on page 4 of July 2020, you said.
yes. Anyway, that's all I have, but
Okay, thank you.
it's good.
Betty. Seal?
Well, I tell you, it's really something working at a time like this as a docent of what people say and how happy they are. Oh, we have a place to come to if they have children. They speak about just the grounds, welcoming that they can. It's just wonderful because it's always appreciated, but it seems to me it's more appreciative now. As one man said, boy, you can stand here and kind of forget what's going on in the world.
Yes.
And then other people will say, and because I'm going to be 91, I really kind of appreciate that. They'll say, never in my lifetime I felt like this. They'll say, because I have said something about, oh gosh, I'm a little spacey today. And they say, there's a sense of normalcy being here. That's really because they look out, and I always make sure you go out on that pier, that's 5 feet out into the water, and they'll come back and say, oh, they saw something or that. But the Mound House is a treasure, and we've always touted it that way. The people that are going there feel it, and I kind of, Allison must get a kick out of it, because when you see the people that go by with dogs every single day, coming from everywhere, and they have that, it is a gift to, if you've got a dog which is almost like your child, have that. There are so many things that it offers people, not only the museum and the grounds, but the neighborhood. Bringing in people, somebody said to me, oh, it's so wonderful. It's too hot on the beach to have something like this. Mm-hmm. The longer this goes, the more it's appreciated. Because of Allison and her crew, with Dexter and Katie Beth, and they all have so much knowledge in different ways. The diversified group, Allison. It isn't just, and they don't take it as run-of-mill. It's different every day. I tell you, being there, and I've talked to 3 docents who are up north, and they can hardly wait to come. So you have a lot to be proud of, my dear.
Thank you, Seal. Becky?
Well, kudos to Allison and the staff, and the Zoom projects were wonderful. I just want to get that one certification thing out of the way if we need to do that again, so.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, thank you for all of your work, and one of these days, this will settle down, and
Yes, it will. Soon pass.
Always thanks. Some bad news, Betty. I just heard the doctors are saying now it's got to be more than 6 feet. They're saying that these air particles go up to 20 feet. Not a good thing.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I know that the 6 feet thing is not enough.
enough.
Not adequate.
6 feet is not enough. They're saying that certain research now is showing that.
And inside air can be a problem.
So, but
air
yeah, so
circulating.
just not to scare people, but to be careful. And the other thing that I've really enjoyed, and kudos again to Dexter and Katie Beth and Penny, the newsletter.
The constant contact newsletter.
It's good. You
That
know,
took I was like so proud of them.
It's
like,
good.
We're doing this. Yeah.
it's good.
Thank
It's very
you,
good.
Cindy.
And is Penny feeling better? Do we know?
She is. She's feeling just fine.
Good.
Yes, she's feeling better.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Great. Good to hear. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. We need to agree on the next meeting date. Oh, and we'll also have public comment if there's any. None? Okay. Thank you for sitting through our long meeting. It's lovely to have you here.
My Aunt Laurie has been telling me about this town since I got here, and I sat in this meeting, and it was actually wonderful. And yes, kudos to you. I was actually impressed. I don't know much about it, but I can't wait to meet them at the townhouse. Thank you, Aunt Laurie.
We can't wait till y'all come. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here.
Actually,
Good.
So what are we looking at for the month of August? So by the time we meet next August, our homework assignment is to look for paint colors.
Pink colors.
And bring it to the meeting, either, the actual sample itself or the name. Are we locked into Sherwin-Williams as a make, or is
No,
it
it's just
anything?
that who we use for our paints, just for the town. It's easy for us to get a color
Okay,
wheel from
sure.
them.
That
Although they
works
have
out
the
fine.
paints, but yeah.
I think we already have one recommendation, is that right?
That was from Carol and Joe from Neighbors, just as
Okay.
FYI. She's got a really great eye for design, so she wanted to just send something for FYI.
Are they in the building right next door?
Yes, Carol and Joe are the house right next to
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Carol, the
the-
great photographer.
Yes,
Yeah.
Carol and Joe, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh, well,
Okay.
So for that. So
Oh,
the
so-
fourth Thursday, it is the fourth Thursday we meet, right, would be the 27th of August?
27th of August, and that's a Tuesday, and 3 o'clock.
That's the fourth Thursday of August. If you all want to tentatively set a date, I know you will be gone, Cindy.
Oh, the end of October, yeah.
Okay.
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
I want to do.
And do we have funding once the paint colors have been
That's for
decided?
capital. That will be decided in the budgetary
Okay.
process. It is submitted. We do have, the contractor's already submitted a proposal, and that's in my capital.
Fantastic,
If they
great.
approve that, then you'll know the end of September.
Okay, so we'll have all that for you next month. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we are adjourned.
Thank you, Betty. Second? Lori? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
4:56.
Adjourned. 4